Joining me right now is Julie Rendleman, former Deputy Bureau Chief at the Kings County District Attorney's Office in New York. And Julie, it's great to have you with us.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
All right, I want to talk about this IRS case here. You know, so much is discussed about the need for a special prosecutor, the lack of confidence that a lot of Republican lawmakers have in Eric Holder's Justice Department to get to the bottom of this. What's your take?
I think it's going to require a lot of work, including at least some forensic analysis to see exactly what happened to the emails. I guess the biggest question is, was it intentional loss of these emails, or was it simply accidental? Although I have to say it seems quite odd that would be an accident.
Yeah, and when you're trying to make that distinction between what was an accident and what was done on purpose, what are some of the main factors you look for as a prosecutor?
Well, I think you're going to have to speak to witnesses to see when it is that the emails were removed, if there are witnesses or eyewitnesses that can assist. And then I think a forensic analysis which would be able to at least delineate the day that the emails were removed, how quickly they were removed, the order they were removed, and that could give them a better understanding of when it was that the emails disappeared suddenly.
Yeah, interesting story there. Let's also talk about another very interesting story, a sad one as well. Then that's a case of this call girl accused of killing a Google executive. She's pled not guilty to manslaughter on that one charge of ejecting the executive with a lethal dose of heroin aboard his yacht. As an attorney who has prosecuted high-profile, complex murder cases, what's your take on this case?
I think that she has an uphill battle. Keep in mind, this isn't just that she injected him, she supplied the drugs, and then after injecting him, she left him to die, which all those things lead to clearly a manslaughter case. And it seems to be that this is not the first time that she's been involved in something like this.
And what you were referencing there, I believe, is the district attorney's office there saying that they have some surveillance video of her stepping over the victim in this case, taking a sip of wine. How damning is that type of evidence?
You know, again, I think the issue is whether he was in stress at the time that she was doing that. Remember, they were both doing heroin. They were both what appears to be drug users. So if she's merely doing that thinking that he's sleeping, I don't think that's such a big deal. But if he's in distress and she knows he's in distress and she does those things and then she leaves him in distress, then I think she's going to have a lot of problems.
All right, well, another story out there right now getting a lot of attention, especially from a lot of parents who have summer vacation plans headed to Orlando this year, are the Disney workers getting arrested to catch a predator-style child sexting. CNN, in an investigation, found 35 employees arrested since 2006 accused of crimes involving children, sex crimes. Disney has responded, insisting the 35 employees made up less or 0.1 or 0.1% of its staff. I think that's the number we're trying to go with right there. So we look at this case. Julie, do you think this is more widespread than Disney is letting folks believe?
You know, look, CNN did a 6-month investigation, and they could only come up with 35 arrests from 2006 until, I think, today. And so, you know, it seems that the investigation was done, and that's what they came up with. It shouldn't be surprising that when you have an amusement park or something that engages children, that you are going to inevitably have sexual predators that are interested in either working there or visiting there. You know, I might be in the minority. 35 does not seem to be that much when you consider the amount of employees that actually work there, but any number is too high a number.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I think a lot of parents out there would say 1 is too many.
The problem is that I believe that the majority of the individuals that were arrested, it was their first time arrest. Mm-hmm. So it's very difficult to delineate who's going to be a sexual predator and who's not going to be a sexual predator. I mean, the guidelines, or at least what Disney says, is that they do very thorough investigations, background checks, and then they continue to do investigations and cover and watch their computers and the like. And I think the sting operations are probably the only way to continue to protect the kids that go to these different parks.
All right, so 32 of these individuals have been convicted. 8 have pled not guilty. You know, since there seems to be a lot of information here, including surveillance video, what's the likelihood that those 8 will escape any charges?
I haven't seen all the videos. I've seen some of them. I think it's highly unlikely that they're going to get away with it. Because I believe most of those cases were not only emails back and forth between the alleged victims and the perpetrators, but video surveillance of them actually going to the homes of those locations. Now, some of the other cases may but just be the downloading of child pornography. When I say just, meaning that the evidence would be different, and it would be up to the prosecutor to prove that, in fact, he downloaded them with the intent to view them.
All right, and so this last question there on that specific aspect, you know, when you look at burden of proof and how difficult is that to do, the last thing you just mentioned?
As long as you can prove that he is the person that used that computer and was the only person that had use of that computer, then it's not very difficult. And in this case, I believe, my understanding was at least 2 of the individuals actually downloaded the child pornography from the amusement park, which is troubling in and of itself. As long as they're the only person that can have access, then it shouldn't be difficult for the prosecutor to prove a case.
All right, so a small number if you look at the total sample size of Disney employees, but certainly something that's getting a lot of attention from parents out there and folks who visit Disney. Julie Rendleman, thank you so much for your insight on this story, and we'll have you back very soon to talk about more.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's our pleasure. It's our pleasure. Well, guys, we're going to turn our attention now and move ahead to something we like to do a couple times here during the program, and that's look back at some great moments in American history. We call them our American moments, and today we're focusing on one of the greatest Olympic feats of all time until just recently when another American swimmer beat that medal record. We take a look now back at that American form, Mark Spitz in his gold medal celebrations.
I'm going to tell you something. They're going to call you chicken if you don't swim. You are the world record holder. And the premier Olympic swimming event is the 100 freestyle.
With those words from his coach, Olympic history was made. Born Mark Andrew Spitz in the little town of Modesto, California, the future Olympian record holder began his swimming career at the age of 2 in the Hawaiian waters of Waikiki Beach. 4 years later, Mark and his family moved to Sacramento, California, and by age 10, he held 17 national age group records and 1 world record. But the best was yet to come. After a disappointing performance at the 1968 Olympics, the Shark, as nicknamed by his teammates, returned to the Olympic Games in 1972, determined to do better. As history records, at the 20th Olympiad, Mark Spitz won 7 gold medals and set 7 world records in the process. But it almost didn't happen. After winning his 5th gold medal, the Olympic champion faced his toughest competitor, Australian Michael Wendon, in what Spitz had always considered his toughest race, the 100-meter freestyle. He thought seriously of withdrawing from the biggest race of his career. But with encouragement from his coach, Spitz reconsidered and changed history. Spitz's achievement gave America a boost internationally as the nation suffered in global public opinion from its long war in Vietnam. And Spitz's victory in the sports arena was especially gratifying. As an American Jew, his victories cast a powerful shadow over the Palestinian Liberation Organization's Munich terrorism, when 11 Israeli athletes were held hostage and eventually murdered by the group belonging to the Black September organization. Despite the horrors and his own nail-biting competition, Mark Spitz always maintained his sense of humor. The night before competition was to begin, he was asked by a Russian reporter why he wore a mustache. Although he had planned to shave it that very night, he replied,
I said, no, it doesn't slow me down. I said, it deflects the water away from my mouth. It allows my head to get a lot lower and more streamlined, my behind actually up. And so that's why I was able to break the world record at the Olympic trials in Chicago 3 weeks before. The guy looked at me and hesitated, and then he translated as fast as he could into Russian. All male Russian swimmers the next year had a mustache.
For Newsmax TV, I'm Bill Curtis, and this is an American Moment.